All of us that are lucky enough to get to be involved in baseball in whatever capacity, I think, understand that not only is it the greatest game in the world, but we're in the memory-making business. It's ultimately entertainment. It's an opportunity for grandparents and parents to share memories with friends. It's an opportunity for strangers sitting out in the bleachers to share a great memory that happens at the ballpark and that can be talked about from that time on for the rest of their life potentially. So, with that, all of that in mind, I just can't say again how humbled I am to be in this role and again be a part of a team that's hopefully looking forward to making more great memories for this fan base and community.
Let's play ball.
Look out, here we go.
Here it is.
This is going to get ugly here. It is.
Welcome back to Skaters on Baseball. I'm Schmitty along with Christian Cooper, and today we are talking Buster Posey. You might have heard of him. He is the new POBO. That's President of Baseball Operations. And it was announced yesterday, and they had the press conference today. So Christian and I are here with a special podcast. And before we start, I just want to thank all the people on YouTube. We do now have a YouTube page. And with a call of action, we received the 50 follower minimum that we needed. So we are able to go live now. So look forward to that. And let's talk Buster. Christian, how are you?
Let's talk Buster. I'm doing good, Schmitty. Got my cap on backwards, catcher style, honor of Buster. I love this move. I think I love the most that Farhan is gone, because I think Farhan was actually ankle shackles on this team for the past 6 years, and I think now that he's gone and now that Buster's in and they're talking about bringing in a GM and surrounding him with people that are going to allow him to succeed, we'll start to hear a little bit more about how bad Farhan made it. But by everything that I've listened to and seen so far, it sounds a lot like he was just micromanaging the Giants to death. And I don't see Buster being that guy. So I'm very excited about what the future holds with him there.
I agree. And like listening to the press conference today, some things kind of became hinted at. Pete Patilla will be staying with the organization as of now, but being replaced in the general manager by someone. And it sounds like Buster wants somebody that is a good scouting and kind of just like he's probably going to be the lead guy. And Buster, I can't see Buster working 24/7 around the clock on different things and this and that, but he's definitely a closer. He's definitely a legend. He's got all the right tools. I mean, when you think of so here's how it went. We were talking about this all year. Farhan has to go. And I kept saying to myself, yeah, but who's going to replace him? We don't know anyone out there that's like a sure shot better than. I mean, we can go backwards and maybe bring in Coletti or Sabian, but that doesn't seem like, the type of move the Giants would do. And so when I got the press release and it said Farhan is gone, it kind of came at this crazy way. And maybe it was just the way I glance at things because I don't always read properly. But it looked to me like it said Farhan is no longer general manager. And so you're like, yeah. And I hadn't really registered yet because I feel like it was a little further down that Buster Posey was indeed going to replace him. And so it was just it was Christmas for us. I believe so, the energy and the excitement that I could, we listen to a lot of sports radio, sports podcasts, watch the news, all those different things, read columns, all this stuff, and everyone just seems like they got goosebumps. I ran into Marty Lurie this morning. He had a huge smile. He was fired up. I mean, this to me is 150% the right move.
Yep, absolutely. And it feels a lot like coming out of the dark times, and even the 107 win season that they had when Farhan was the POBO. It's such a distant memory, and it seems so hollow because they just got bounced in the first round by the Dodgers. There's really not a lot good to come out of Farhan being there. There's a couple of prospects, and he did bring a couple players in for on the cheap, if not almost free, like Tyro and some of these guys, and Yaz. I mean, they're great pickups, no doubt, but he just failed to field what I think is crucial in today's game of baseball, which is 9 everyday guys, 8 everyday guys, and your standard 5-man rotation, guys that are going to give you quality starts almost every time out. And he just never had it, never got it going. And missing out on all the big signings of the free agents and the superstar tier guys. I mean, it just kind of like was winding down. It just felt like all the air had gone out of the place, And so, yeah, I think it's a great move. And I think players respect players. They respect a guy who's been there. He knows what it's like to be on their side of the table when they're negotiating, right? And now he's going to be there in this other capacity, and obviously he's going to delegate a lot of things. I imagine that Sabes is going to be some sort of a consultant. He's going to be in his ear. I imagine Ned Coletti probably will have some input. They'll probably use those guys as, analysts and consultants to make really good decisions. But I'm just glad he's at the helm, and I think somebody like him deserves that kind of respect from an organization for all that he's given us, right? So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's never been on any other team. The Giants is the only organization in the professional ranks that he knows, so that's huge. Like the term forever giant literally applies to Buster Posey. And as far as like consultants, who's not going to take a phone call from Buster? He has a network that is so wealthy of people that are experienced in all facets of the game, whether it's Barry Bonds or Will Clark, all the way down to Murph, like anybody and in between. He can talk about areas where they can improve the team. He's rubbed shoulders with a lot of these guys, even some of the guys that they might be looking to acquire probably stood up to bat with Buster catching a lot of times. So I'm so excited, to see the first day that we're not playing baseball anymore, which is always sad. Such a great news. The PR move was phenomenal, right? But I think it's more than a PR move, because I think it's going to be now the excitement of like, okay, who's the GM? And, could it be Owens? I keep hearing a couple different names. We'll see, I think, sooner than later, too, because I think they want to get all this stuff happening so that when free agency is like, here we go, they're ready to roll and they can attack the people that they want. And I believe, we've been listening to these guys, Eric and Glenn, over at the San Francisco Giants Bay Area Sports Network on YouTube, and they keep talking about every day, they're talking about getting Soto. And I would argue that Buster is going to go 100% after Snell. I think that he's the best pitcher available, and Buster wants pitching and defense. I don't know. I see him going after 5 guys as opposed to 1 guy. I think you go after Soto and you miss out on possibly a shortstop, which they really need. They need a veteran starting pitcher to help anchor this. There's a big youthful movement under Webb, but having Snell, a lefty that dominates the Dodgers, to me is the no-brainer here. I think that's the first order of business. You get Snell, and if he says no or he wants too much or whatever the reason is, then you go right after Corbin Burns or Fried, right? It's like, get one of those starting pitchers and handle it. Meanwhile, try to get a shortstop going. And, we waited a long time last offseason, and everything happened. Like, some of it happened when spring training had already started.
It already
and
started,
I just believe it's all going to unfold so differently this year. I think They're not going to want to dilly-dally. They're going to want to get all their people in place. They're going to want to go into the off season with their team established and their ideals and working on whether it's bunting, hit and run, stealing more, pitching, whatever it is, adding and subtracting in the coaching staff. I think this year is going to be really excitement from here till opening day, and that is exciting for someone that gets depressed on the off season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Snell for a minute. I think under any other president of baseball operations other than Farhan, they would have been talking extension with him prior to the beginning of September. Okay, you're talking about a guy who's coming off winning a Cy Young. He was signed late and he had the injury, but look at how he pitched when he came back. Okay, he's pitching at probably a higher level than he pitched last year when he won the Cy Young. So they gave him this absurd deal, 1 year opt-out. The guy is clearly top tier in the league. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. He showed that down the stretch. And why, only with a guy like Farhan is that conversation not even taking place, right? So I'm just thinking with somebody like Buster in there and with other people around him that they're not going to make those kinds of mistakes from here on. I'm hoping that that's the case, but I mean, they should be doing everything they can to re-sign Snell, and I think they should have been looking to extend him before the season even ended, whether they're going to the postseason or not, because you could see it. I mean, he comes out, he throws a no-hitter, he's throwing complete game shutouts. He's given them more innings in a game than he usually gave San Diego when he was there. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. You just tell the guy, like, hey, what does it take, and what do we have to do around you, I mean, I would give the guy 5 years. Easy.
Yeah. And, I mean, obviously, the minute he got into the ninth inning, completed his first game ever, and it's a no-hitter, I'm sure Scott Boras is saying, there's no way we're not testing the free agency. Like, we're going to be able to go cha-ching, so there might be some of that. But, yeah, you got to go after him. The guy pitches really good against the Dodgers, which is huge. He's a lefty, so that's huge because we got Kyle Harrison and maybe Robbie Ray. That's 3 lefties if we got Snell. That's like something that not a lot of teams have, and the lefties are so tough to get. So when it's like Corbin versus Snell, in my mind, you just get Snell for a few reasons. 1, he's a lefty. 2, he's won the Cy Young twice. 3, he's got chemistry with the whole team already. He's been like golfing with Logan Webb. He's got a relationship with Bob Melvin that precedes the Giants because he was his coach on the Padres. It just makes too much sense to me. He's already got a relationship with Patrick Bailey, so they're like in tune. I hope that happens. I really hope that happens. And then I really hope that we can get a shortstop as well, because I think that as much as I love Fitzgerald, I want a guy at shortstop that I'm not worried when a ground ball is hit at him. I really need, especially after we've been so lucky with Brandon Crawford for all those years. It was just a vacuum cleaner over there. And a lot of people say, yeah, but you got Matt Chapman over there. But yeah, Matt Chapman's not going to get anywhere near second base. Like he's got range, but the shortstop is going to have to be accountable. And the shortstop's a lot of time the relay guy, all these different things, double plays, steals, everything. I just think it's too important to have a guy that's like hitter first and not that great defense. So what I would do is move Fitzgerald to second, treat him like Chris Taylor, have him fill in the outfield for giving people days off, and then see where all this goes. I don't know what our team's going to be like, if we're more, a speed dynamic team like the D-backs, or if we start picking up some Thunder bat, who knows. But until anything else happens, I'm stoked. My wife's like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, it's the best. It's seriously the best. Like, Buster, love you.
Yeah. And I think it has the appearance and the feel of them trying to bring a little prestige back to the team and the organization that we had in 2010, 2012, 2014. Arguably those teams weren't made up of superstar players, but when you look at like the pitching talent, it was top of the charts. And Matt Cain, Lincecum, Bumgarner, I mean, these guys, even Jonathan Sanchez was around. He chucked a no-hitter, I mean, these were legit top-tier pitchers that they had. So they are stars. I think we don't tend to think of pitchers as much as superstars as we do as field players and guys that hit, right? But they're every bit as valuable. And then the mid-season acquisitions that they would bring in and the position players that they bred within the organization, like Belt, like Crawford, these guys, like Buster. I mean, these are top-tier players, right? And we've been missing that, The top-tier guys that we've had have been somebody that somebody else didn't want, right? And the reclamation guys, I mean, when Gosman came in, look at what happened. They let him walk. They never even made him a qualifying offer and things like that. So the change was needed, and I think this is a good one. And I think for anybody who starts to think about it too long and go, oh, he has no experience in this and that, I'm not worried about it, because I think they're going to, he's going to surround himself with the right people. Nothing's going to get past him. And the guy is just a student of the game, right? And that's really important, because Farhan's a math nerd, right? And so I think those guys, I almost think it's about, oh, look at what I could pull off by, doing this sneaky move and getting this guy on the cheap. And then if he produces, you look great. But if he doesn't, then you're just an idiot. And I think he ended up being the idiot more often than being the smart guy. So good riddance, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will applaud Farhan's best move to me is that he got rid of Melanson. I don't know how the hell he got out of that deal. That was like, that was early on. I was like, oh, Farhan's killing it. Like, because I hate it. That Melanson deal was one of the worst, And then he got rid of Desclafani. We ate Listella, like a bunch of those guys, but then a bunch of those guys are guys that he actually got. So it was like Haniger, losing Haniger was great, but why did we get Haniger in the first place, So I do think that, I don't know, we'll see, right? I want to just see how the Giants play without Farhan involved. Like, are we a little more apt to keeping, let's say, Lamont Wade, if he's still on the team? Does he play a little more because they don't mind him facing left-handed batters when he's hot as hell because he bats against lefties? I just feel like I don't know anything about this, except for my opinion, but I got to believe that Bob Melvin wasn't 100% in control of the team. I feel like the lefty-righty, some of these analytic moves were coming from a higher place. So what I'm curious to see is, do we just get more of an old school feel on the field? You get the 9 best players on there, no matter what hand they throw with or hit with. That will be exciting to me, because no disrespect to Donovan Walt and Wisely, these guys all, like, they mean well, and they're, who knows, they might turn into great things, but they're definitely not in the position to be starting over other guys on the team, no matter if it's a righty or lefty, so those are the things I want to see. And then I also want to see less back and forth from Sacramento. I don't think that they're going to treat their people. You don't just do what they did to Tyro. Right. That was pretty dirty. And I don't know, even the way they handled Duvall, just throwing him up in sack when he was an all-star, like, there was just certain things that I was like, they could have done this differently somehow, and I'm excited. One of the things that I've always prided myself as with being a Giants fan is that the organization seems to be like a family, like you always see all the wives get together and they have this big clique, and they're in Napa, they're Tahoe, they're doing fun things all together. And the organization, usually for the free agents, when they first check into their hotel, they have all this welcome, they really, like, embrace these people, letting them know, like, we're so happy you're here. And after they're gone, they bring them back. Chris Spire was just here. What's he doing now? I don't know, but the Giants want to remember these guys. And to me, that's a class act organization that you can only applaud.
And when you look at his career trajectory, it says a lot about who the guy is. I mean, he came up super fast through the system. They had Benji Molina in there kind of holding down the fort, but all the talk leading up to when they first brought him up was, when Buster Posey gets here, things are going to change, right? It's going to be a whole different deal. And it took, all of 4 games for his impact to be noticed? I mean, right out of the gate, right? And he's Rookie of the Year, okay? Goes on to be an MVP, goes on to be a batting champion, 3 World Series titles, a grand slam off Matt Latos, in a deciding game in a division series.
That.
They were down 2-0 in the division series. They were down 3-0 in the championship series. Came back from all that, and I'm sorry, but the catcher is an integral part of everything that happens on the field. Defensive side, offensive side. He's your captain, pretty much. I mean, the guy's mostly calling the games, He's trusting the pitchers to throw their stuff. I mean, all that. He's like one of the most important guys there. So I just think with all that and the wherewithal to play that position in the major leagues and take a beating like that and everything else, and the way that he performed, like, he's got some grit, and I think that's going to work to his advantage in this job, right? Also, we know that catchers have a pretty good track record of moving on to management, being big league managers, working inside organizations. So I think it's exciting.
This is breathing optimism for me. It makes me think that whether we go after Soto or not, which seems to be the huge topic already, and I'm kind of like, didn't you guys learn from like jumping all in on some of these big stars in the past? This just doesn't seem like what the Giants organization really is going to do. No matter what they do, though, I think it's going to be a good move, or 2 or 3 or 4. I think they're going to get some pitching. I think they're going to get a shortstop. They're going to improve their hitting. They're going to get more athletic. They're going to get rid of some of the people that just aren't ever going to be what they were supposed to be, and that's going to be exciting. Each and every move is going to be exciting. The general manager coming in, like, who is it? Oh man, what's that going to mean? And then who's the first acquisition? What does that mean? And then what do other players think looking at our organization? You and I have talked about this a lot. The culture of the ballpark and the culture of the team and the culture of San Francisco and all this, right? It's like, what does that mean now? When you're let's say you're a Judge or a Soto or any of these guys, like you're looking at the team and you're like, why should I play there? And then you go into a meeting and Buster Posey's there and he's talking to you about his experience there. And you look over and you see Matt Chapman that's smiling ear to ear and saying, I love it here. And then you have a guy like Blake Snell that said, I re-signed here for a reason. That gives you some momentum, like, hey, and look at all this youth that's coming. We think that we have some really good players that are only going to get better. The farm system is going to improve. Eldridge looks like he could be a phenom. We got these guys that are kind of starting to be this thing. It actually makes you think like, a star could want to be here. It could be the momentum that changes this whole direction of like second fiddle on all these acquisitions. And I think somebody like Adames is going to be really sought after. And so, I don't know. I keep hearing Ha-Sung Kim, but he's having a labrum surgery. And that just seems like the old regime. Like, let's get him cheap, right? Oh, he's a friend of this guy. Like Glenn says, I don't care who he's friends with. I want to see him play ball. And Adames seems like a guy that is going to come in. He's going to have some star power. He's going to have some bat power. And he plays defense. That's a guy that we want. He could be an all-star for all we know. And so, I don't know. We're going to see. We're going to see what this team does. But I know that Buster Posey golfs with Greg Johnson pretty regularly. And so they're going to be super in tune what is able to be spent and what's not able to be spent. And what kind of players we will go over the hump for and which players we won't go. And so I think there's just going to be a couple less phone calls on every move because they're more in tune with exactly what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one thing I sort of got from watching the press conference this morning was looking at Bob Melvin and the way that he was sitting next to Buster, and he looked happy. And I don't think I've seen that guy look happy most of the year this year, right? He genuinely seemed like, okay, now we're gonna be ballers, right? Now we're gonna get something done. And I listened to Pavlovich do a emergency podcast with Cole Kuiper, and I take a lot of what those guys say with a grain of salt, but what he did say was that by everything that he knew and had witnessed and experienced is that Farhan was a complete micromanager down to the point of setting the daily lineups. Okay. So that tells you a lot about where things have been the past couple of years, and, probably tells us more about why Bochy is gone, in the first place. And maybe Kapler didn't take too kindly to all that either. Oh, yeah.
Rookie card. This will get signed this next year.
Nice. So
I think Bomel's demeanor was a little different, right?
Yep,
and even him and Buster joking around by, I never liked you. I didn't like looking at your eye when you played.
Right.
Like, the respect is there. You can see it, and it's gonna be great. They're gonna mesh well. We got Matt Williams at the hot corner. He'll be back for sure. I'm not sure what they'll do with Paparel and Veal with the hitting coaches and stuff. Pretty sure Knockin will be back. But who knows if they'll bring in like a Vogelsong to help pitching or get Brandon Crawford involved if he wants to. Some of these guys that they know how to win. They've won 3 World Series championships. They've been around the team that was successful. They've seen what works and what doesn't, firsthand. I'm excited.
Yep.
Tell me why not to be.
Yeah. And I think that, Buster, when you look at 2011, when he went down with that horrendous injury, right? And I remember watching that game and thinking oh, he's done.
Yeah,
he's done. It was just horrific. And then a year later, he's back and he's as good as he ever was. And just the perseverance and the hard work that it takes to come back from, I shattered my leg, man. It's 99% the same, but it's not the same, So just knowing the kind of character that guy has to work that hard, that translates. And I think it translates down to the player level where these guys see him, they know what he's given to the game, they know how hard he's worked, and they see the rewards that he's reaped from that, right? 3 trophies. Those 3 trophies are in the building. And I think any prospective guy that they're thinking about signing and they bring to the city, you walk them right past those trophies, right? Oh, you want to stop and look at these for a minute? Yeah, that, right? And he did that. He's responsible for that.
100%. I mean, come on. This is phenomenal. It's a great day to celebrate as a Giants fan. As I saw Vern Glenn this morning. Haven't seen him in a while. He's walking in and he said this is one of, if not the biggest off-season move since he's been covering the Giants, which is a long time.
Yeah.
A very big day in San Francisco Giants history. This is the type of impact that this has. And we have just seen the beginning. We're going to see a lot of transformation over the next few years. I believe, don't expect the first year to just be like, blah, 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 it's a fixed. But you're going to start seeing moves that maybe are a little different, that are obviously the right move and in the right direction. My dog's excited. The playoffs are starting. We got the Mets versus the Brewers, the Braves versus the Padres, the Orioles versus the Royals, and the Tigers versus the Astros.
Yep.
It's baseball still. Hey, B,
Yep.
shut it. Hey.
Yeah, and the postseason, I mean, obviously, when the Giants are in it, it's 1,000 times better. But I love postseason baseball. You know, it just there's something about it. It's exciting, man, because you're seeing the guys that everybody's rising to the top. I think one of my favorite things about the postseason is the unlikely hero, the guy who kind of is not like Marco Scutaro. Right?
Yeah. Travis Ishikawa.
We picked this guy up, and then it was like the whole team ethos was like, yeah, let's get Marco to the World Series. He's never been, and he's on the verge of retirement, right? And the guy comes out, and what did he have? Something like a 750 on base percentage in the playoffs that year. I mean, that's ridiculous, So I love that aspect of it. I love seeing the underdogs kind of come up and put a hurting on the favorites. And that doubleheader yesterday, I listened to that, and that was exciting as hell. That first game,
Oh my God!
What was going on there?
Francisco Lindor, and what was it, the 8th or the 9th? Holy
The 9th. Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable baseball, and that just primes us for these games. Hopefully, they're great.
Yep.
The Dodgers are waiting for the winner of the Braves Padres.
Right.
And
gonna be the
Lee
Padres.
DuPont said that he's going to come on the podcast if the Padres win. So.
If they win this series, the wild card series?
No, the Dodger series.
Oh, we got to get him on before that.
He's a lot of talk, but not that early. He's got to talk after he can look back.
We got to butter him up a little bit. The Padres are going to put the Braves through the wood chipper, right? I mean, we'll
see.
Not, yeah, no.
Nothing surprises me in postseason baseball.
Without Chris Sale, Braves are done. I mean, he
they don't
basically
have Acuna,
carried them.
They don't have Strider. They're missing some key elements for sure. But the Padres can collapse on any moment's notice. I've seen it happen. So I don't believe anything till I see it. I think the Mets and the Brewers should be the Brewers, but the Mets are playing good, man. Ever since Grimace showed up with that purple shake, I don't know what the hell happened, but the Mets have been in fuego. Who are you going for the whole thing, for National League? What's the World Series look like to you, and who do you think is going to win it all?
Well, shit. I think the Orioles went through kind of a weird slowdown down the stretch of the season, but I think they have the ability to bounce back in the playoffs, and they may end up in the World Series. On the other side of it, I could easily see San Diego going all the way to the World Series this year. They've got the pitching. They got King. They got Musgrove. I mean, they just seem strong, and they seem to get hot at the right time. Down the stretch. I mean, obviously the Giants went in and took 2 out of 3, but the Padres have looked tough, man, really tough. So I think, they're going to get past the Braves, and then when they come up against the Dodgers, I think that's all going to rely on whether San Diego's pitching staff is at full strength and they can just, keep the Dodgers to a minimum of runs. I think they could beat them because the Dodgers have no pitching, right? And even with the break, I mean, who are they going to throw out there? They lost almost their entire staff.
I'm just waiting for the $400 million man to get shelled. That's what I'm waiting for. Yama this, baby. For me, I know MLB wants Yankees Dodgers, obviously, right? They've been putting Shohei up on their MLB Instagram probably 43 times a day, and it's just so much overload. I can't even handle it. To me, the Phillies are a tough team in the postseason, and I could see them taking the National League. I'm kind of rooting for the Padres, though. For some reason, I started liking the Padres a little bit, even though they're in our division. Might be kind of nice to have National League West team represent, And in the American League, I love the Orioles, but I'm thinking that it's going to be a 2-seed World Series. It's going to be the Guardians versus the Phillies. That's who I think is going to be.
I'd love to see the Guardians in the World Series. I think Philly's a good pick, too. It's kind of tough. I don't think the Yankees are going to get far. They and the Dodgers, the same thing. The pitching just fell apart. I mean, they just lost Cortez 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
So Yankees, Dodgers, I mean, the league wants it. All these sort of casual fans want it. I couldn't care less. I don't want to see either one of those teams in the World Series, especially the Dodgers, but I don't like the Yankees either. I don't like Aaron Boone and his whining at the umpires every night. He's got some beef. And yeah, the umps aren't great, but come on, dude, you got to know when to stay in the dugout, which is just the poetic justice of him being tossed from that game earlier this year for what a fan was yelling. And the umpire thought that he was yelling at him and he tossed him. It was some guy sitting in the stands behind him.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So yeah, they're strong teams, strong offense, but the pitching is weak. And we both know in the playoffs, pitching is really crucial. If you don't have it, you're going to get shellacked.
That's why I want to know.
Yeah, I'd love to see Philly or San Diego, either of those two. I'd love to see them in the World Series. Baltimore would be great. Cleveland be fantastic. I mean, those teams, they have some really great players.
For me, anyone besides the Dodgers, then I'm happy.
Yep.
Hate to say it, but it's so true.
Well, it's their MO. What do they have? How many division titles in the last? Are they 14 out of 15 or?
I think the one that we won, 107, right? That was the
only one in the last, 11 years, 12 years, something like that, right?
But no World Series since '88, except for that. What was it? A 50-game
81 game season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to claim it. Go ahead, claim it, but it's really not the same thing. Sorry.
Well, excited to see some postseason baseball. We're going to try to chime in a little more frequently, maybe less length in the episodes, but try to just check in from time to time, especially during these playoffs. See who goes to the next round, anticipate what's going on. And if the Giants do anything like hire a general manager or get some big free agencies, we'll definitely want to chime in and talk about that. Before we go, we definitely have to, tip our hat, pour a little LaCroix out for Pete Rose. He passed away yesterday. It was a huge day yesterday. The announcement of Posey, Pete Rose died, Mutombo died, the great basketball player. It was a couple of days after Chris Christopherson died. They always say they come in threes. That was interesting. Yep. But yeah, it's, Cheryl and I have been watching that documentary on Pete Rose, and I just love it. I mean, yeah, a lot of people hated him, and I can see why. But he was kind of I just love him. I just loved his whole passion, his love of the game, his play. He was 100% hardball. I heard Kruko talking about it this morning where you could not get to the ballpark before Pete Rose every game. He was always the first one there. He had his cleats on, his pants, and he was raring to go. And he just, lived and breathed baseball.
Yep. And, I think in the 70s, the Big Red Machine and all that, I remember when the Reds were this unbeatable juggernaut of players. But he was the central piece of all that, and it wasn't because he hit the most home runs or because he hit the most doubles or because he stole the most bases. It was just the tenacity and the clutchness of that guy and the fact that he's the all-time major league hits leader, right? And nobody's probably ever going to come close to what he hit, right? And so a lot of respect. I think I hated him at one point just because they'd play the Giants and usually smear the Giants. The Reds did back in that period of time. So, but yeah, bummer. And that documentary was amazing. And so kind of gives you some insight that most people, I don't think, really knew much about him until seeing that. Certainly it was an eye opener for me about a lot of things.
When he tells that reporter, hey, that was 55 years ago. You weren't even born yet. Right. Fucking, he just did not care, and he didn't think before the trap opened. He was very old school in that way of much like our grandparents, just of that time where it was just no filter.
Yep, I'm going to speak my mind. You know, you may not like it, but too bad.
Yeah, if you
do
haven't
think
seen
too,
it, check out the Charlie Hustle documentary. It's definitely good. It's like
Yeah.
4 episode series.
Yeah, and his camaraderie with his fellow players in that documentary was what really struck me. It's just the connection that he had with all these guys that are from his
Mike
peer
Schmidt
group.
loved him.
You know, you listen to people in the media and the league people, whatever, talk about him with this kind of disdain, but like, you know, got full respect from his peers, you know, and isn't that really what matters? I mean, hey, played the game the way he played it, and Charlie Hustle, right?
Absolutely. Well, like I said at the beginning, we do have YouTube, so go check us out over there. It's Skaters on Baseball. And if you're looking to hear more Giants than we can provide, our friends over at Giant Sports Talk Live, Glenn and Eric, are doing a lot. And tell them we sent you, because we don't want to step on their toes, but we're inspired a lot by what they're doing, and we're trying to do our own thing over here as well. So just a bunch of Giants baseball fans, and we're excited for this off season, which is more than we could say last year.
Yep. Happy Buster Day.
Happy Buster Day. And as Green Day was singing the other night from the stadium, wake me up when September ends, because it's October, baby.
That's right.
Peace.
Cool, man.
Adios!
Thanks for listening to this episode of Skaters on Baseball. If you liked what you heard, please spread the word, give us a good review, or hell, blow us up on your social media if you're down. Follow us at Skates on Base on Instagram for baseball news and other fun stuff. We love comments and listener participation, so bring it with an audio clip or an email. You can email us at skatersonbase@gmail.com. We're everywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll be here all season long.
Let's go, San Francisco. Let's go, Giants.
They can't say it anymore, you know? Complete game, shutout, no hitter, leave me alone.
See you soon. Thank you.